and not those of the owners, advertisers, and management company of Sugar City FM 90.3. Nor are such statements necessarily supported or endorsed by the owners, managers, or advertisers of the station. While we encourage all to share their opinions, we do not support any comments that may slander, discriminate, or otherwise offend anyone, and we insist that you refrain from any such statements.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join Newrish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKitts.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor. Every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Good evening and welcome to Fear No Favor. This evening we are supposed to have our good General Surgeon with us, Dr. Natalie Osborne. I don't know if she missed the timing. Usually she's not late with touching bases and let us communicate as to what we were doing. But like how we're doing it every other week, I remember 1 week she would have skipped because of workload, and I do not know if her calendar might have thrown her off to some extent, or whether she's quite busy at the theater, at the hospital, performing her national duties. But we'll continue with our program. If she comes, then we'll have her slotted in. If not, then I'll do an entire field program. Now, let us look at the situation with these Cameroonians who would have escaped custody. And there's a release from the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force that reads, the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force are currently searching for 5 Cameroonians, detainees who unlawfully left a government detention facility yesterday, April 26, 2023. The public is reminded that harboring any person deemed a refugee or assisting said refugees is in any attempt to evade law enforcement is a criminal offense subject to prosecution. The public's cooperation in the swift resolution of this matter is greatly appreciated. If any of the individuals pictured below are seen in your area, be sure to contact the nearest police station or law enforcement agency. And here you have several numbers. Bastia Police Station is 465-2241. Keon Police Station 465-7258. Sandy Point Police Station 465-6261. St. Johnson's Police Station 465-2241. Frigate Bay Outpost 465-6899. Old Road Police Station 465-6250. Or the Tabernacle Police Station 465-7227. and they have pictures of these 5 individuals. And people will be asking a few questions. Now, where were these persons detained? What facility was used to have them detained? And maybe you might hear somewhere other than the prison or jail cells. And some persons might ask if they were simply accommodated in the facility, were they under lawful custody? And these are the questions that persons might want to ask. And if they were retained from a legal perspective, why run the risk of having them at a facility that was not really designed to house persons of that particular category? Maybe initially the authorities thought that we must be humane to them, try to be as kind as possible. Already they were under some good pressure, and you're extending a warm hand of accommodation. Now it has backfired. So what do we do? Was the facility adequately guarded, or we were in a sort of deceptful way caused to trust these people? You know, Africans, and we keep talking around here about Africa and everything else. But what was the arrangement? What were they allowed to do? Were they allowed to come out and recreate themselves on a play field? Were they heavily guarded? Were they adequately guarded? These are questions that we will have to ask. Now, since that, I think it was about 9 of them who ran off. Did they come back and were placed in the same facility? I think that maybe some adjustments would have to be made. And if you ought to put them over at HMP to avoid things of this nature, then you just have to do it. You cannot take the risk of putting persons who you do not know much about, apart from what they would have chosen to share with you. You cannot run the risk of having those persons put in an area or facility where escaping could be done. And I don't know if they are communicating with other persons, because where would they have gone to? Some trust would have to have been built up, and some persons might have assisted them in doing what they had to do, or maybe they were just brave and decided, look, let us go somewhere. They might have had urges for certain things, and it overwhelmed them, and they made a decision to take the risks and leave and go someplace. But how would they have known about places that they can go? When they ran away, how many hours? Okay, you caught 4 of them. How many hours were they out at large for? Now, it seems as if today, I think, is the 27th. So that means that those 5 are sleeping out, or would be outside of the retention center. What should really be done? Because the police, the army, everybody now busy hunting for these persons when they could have been otherwise engaged. We don't have a clue about their history, like I said, apart from what they volunteered to let us know. And how can this be resolved? It is not good news. I know that some effort would have been manufactured to have them go back to Antigua. But then the Antiguan government apparently changed its mind about having them repatriated to Antigua. But what are we supposed to do? Are they here illegally, having been rescued? Is it correct to say that they ought to be placed at the HMP, where they will be most secured? And having recaptured 4 of them, I hope some intense interviewing or interrogation were carried out to ascertain the mindset of these people. If they're saying that they want to go home, are they held against their will? Do they have good intentions? Are they applying for refugee status? What is really going on with respect to these Cameroonians? Old people used to say, sorry for Margadog turn around bite you. But they have been here for quite a while, and I think that we ought to have been a little more advanced in deciding what we are going to do with these people. And it is rather unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. Our country has much more important local issues to attend to than to be wrapping our minds around trying to recapture the escaped detainees. We don't even know what terminology to use. Why are they detained for such a long period of time? Can something be arranged for them to be taken to Cameroon or whichever country they are from? Or is it going to be a legal battle as to who or which country is liable for them, and whether a decision can be made by the court to say have them sent back to Antigua? What is really going on? We need to have conversations. We need to truly have conversations, because when you have strangers who seem not to be trusted, different people see things differently. Persons can become paranoid about having people around who the very authority who are responsible for protecting us are not certain of their history or may not be certain of the truth pertaining to them. So I do not know exactly what is going on. I see a message coming in saying, good night. Please note that 4 of the 5 escaped detainees have been captured. However, Nicholas Santana Areche is still at large. So, the person who sent me this message, could you ascertain for me how many of them escaped initially? My understanding is that I heard it was 9 and 4 were captured. So was it 9 and 4 were captured, or was it 5 and 4 were captured? Originally, was it 9, 4 we captured, leave 5 at large, and then another 4 out of that 5 we captured? I need some clarity on that, because people are listening and persons can become extremely paranoid about having strangers in your land not under the control of those whose function is to protect us. For we do not know. And what has become of the situation with the Haitians? I am not affair with their situation. And if someone is listening, they can message me at 665-4508 and provide a little information as to what is the status of the Haitians as well. People must be able to live in peace and not pieces by way of the psyche. Some persons are not even comfortable with neighbors who they would have known for some time, much less to have foreigners intruding on our land space and not absolutely certain as to where these people are, what status do they have. And would we continue to use taxpayers' money to accommodate them? Because we have persons in Newtown, we have persons in Irish Town, we have persons at the village, we have persons in all Challengers, the whole country, Keyon, Brighton, Tabernacle, Phillips's, Molyneux, who could deal or who could get some extra attention as well. And whenever we spread ourselves in a thin way to facilitate persons who we ought not to be facilitating, then persons will start to wonder if our preference scale really would need recalibrating. We have to fend for ourselves. Each and every Kititian deserves his or her fair share. And to have persons, whether 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, it doesn't matter. The fact is that you have to go in the people's treasury to facilitate issues and accommodation of these persons. And as such, we should be updated. We must not only be au fait, but we must be au courant as well. We must be aware of what's going on, and we must also be aware of the latest development. So au courant means to be up to date with the latest development. So I will be happy if we could get some information on that. We'll take a break and we'll be back.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join Newrish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. our favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Welcome back to Fear Nor Favor. So Dr. Osborne would have indicated that she would not be in tonight, so I'll be doing the show alone, and we'll leave that topic that we had to do tonight for next week. Now, we are hearing about CPL, Caribbean Premier League, the 20 over situation that we normally would have. And it has been going on for quite a while. Local governments, or our government, has been putting in some monies into the hosting of these games. And a good question to put out there is how much is returned on the capital invested to host the CPL. Yes, it's a time of merriment and persons can let down their hair and do what they have to do, free up themselves, have some fun, enjoy a quick single with the suspense of whether somebody will be run out, and enjoy the 4 hitting, the 6 hitting, the slower ball, deceiving the batsman, and run chasing or run defending. All that is good. How much are we truly benefiting from the CPL? Yes, persons come and they go in the hotels, and private individuals, businesses would make some money off the occasion. But our government, and yes, we can get some publicity. You know, we showcase our cultural products, tourism products, and it can lead to possible foreign investment once the right persons are spoken to and we take the initiative to have discussions with them. And I think, though, that throughout the years that we have been hosting CPL, I think that we need some feedback with respect to the economic impact. Yes, like I said, hotels, guest houses, transportation, persons with their own private accommodation, everybody would make something from it. But as a country, let us dissect, let us deconstruct, and then reconstruct to see if we are truly benefiting the way we ought to benefit. Now, the guys them come here. We have a cricket association, a quote-unquote a cricket association. When the tournament is over, how much better off is our cricket association with respect to gears, with respect to an improved balance sheet? How much our youngsters would have learned? Are there clinics held to facilitate good number of our youngsters, whether teaching them how to bowl, pace bowling, spin bowling, medium pace, fielding, wicket keeping, batting off spin, batting of a fast bowler who would have that deceptive slow ball, whether Yorker slow ball or bouncer slow ball. How do we benefit outside of the hotels and the individual pockets? Do we get a stock of gears to be given to the schools? We don't have much going on with respect to cricket with our youngsters. The number of clubs, I listened some persons campaigning for the presidency of the Cricket Association. And it was disclosed that the number of teams or clubs used to be around 12. They are now down to 3. I really can't stomach that. We invested a lot in putting on Warner Park. When World Cup cricket was coming, we invested a lot and we put down a lot of improvement on playgrounds throughout the island. But what is the return? We are not having persons, for example, getting cricket scholarships to go off to Australia, to go off to England, to go off to even India. We are not getting anything in return. We cannot see the centimeters that we would have advanced forward in certain areas. And we have to start digging deeper than that. Our dividends from hosting the CPL for so many years ought to have been deeper. Unless we are not succeeding, we're simply not succeeding. How many years we have not held a cricket tournament, but yet we continue to select people to represent St. Kitts. So that would call for a lot of subjectivity. Who knows who? When last you saw this person perform, yes, this person might have been a part of the team last year, year 4. What tournament have you seen this person in, and how did they display their craft? Why would you just merely select these people? And to me too, it is an act of dishonesty. That could be considered an act of dishonesty, because if you did not have a tournament, and that is the sole purpose of the tournament, but yet you are selecting team to call St. Kitts team, I mean, you're being very dishonest with the general public. And of course, the Cricket Association might not be in the healthiest of financial position. So that means that there would be some subsidizing using taxpayers' money to subsidize occasions when they might have to travel or accommodate persons coming. And you're using taxpayers' money and deceiving them, giving them the belief that, well, tournaments were held and the team was objectively selected. I mean, we've been doing that for quite a while. We've been doing that for quite a while. And maybe in hindsight, we have to ask our questions. What were some of the objectives when we developed Warner Park to that extent? And that, again, is another issue, because we had such a lovely, massive space, and we have contracted it or condensed it into a very small area. You're feeling in the slips and you miss a catch off a medium pacer, the ball might go over the boundary for 6. When we had such lovely, big space, well, that went wrong already. We have maybe an area, a compound, a facility that many persons would have resigned their effort and decide that we are going to appreciate what we have. But it could have been much better. But it has been used for test cricket, it has been used for 50-over cricket, it has been used for 20-20, it has been used for 6-over cricket, 60 balls. So that might not be able to change in a hurry. But what was the investment all about? What dividend have we reaped? Where are the players that we have created? Where? You know, you're hearing about a little this here in isolated, sparsely. Some performance here, some performance there. But we're not even aware of the persons who we can be proud of or who can look towards. And even if you want to look towards and try to encourage, how would we really encourage them? Cricket gears are expensive. Football, you buy a pair of boots and a shin guard and your socks, and usually you play for a team where there's a jersey, you have a football. Even if you don't have a personal football, the association would be responsible for supplying footballs. Cricket, you have to have pads, you have to have protection, you have to have helmet, you have to have so many things. Who would supply the youngsters with these equipment to get them ready? Cricket is a very expensive sport. And that is why most people might gravitate towards basketball. One ball and you're going to bounce. You might have to buy a pair of shoes. Yes, a pair of shoes might cost $500, $600, a proper pair of basketball shoes if you want them to last long. But nowhere close to the expense that a budding cricketer would have to incur in order to simply partake, much less to excel in cricket. I think that we need to rethink. We need a national retreat with respect to where we are heading, what trajectory we are on with respect to cricket, or else things can become very circular. Very circular. And you have to have a system in place. No school competition. What has happened to the primary school competition? What has happened to the high school competition? If they're not playing it in school, how could you get them when they leave school? They're going on the basketball court or the football field. We are not nurturing the guys them to move or gravitate towards cricket. And you see, we see sports tourism as persons coming here to play some cricket, CPL, or persons coming to enjoy the golf courses that we have. Tennis seems as if we get in a little hiccup here and there. But that is not all. Sports tourism for us should also be our exporting of our talents. Who wants to reach out there, we can have some remittances coming back home to family members. It's an area where you can have revenue being generated for an individual that would trickle down to his family members, or even to open an account, carry out some investment in his own country. But if we cannot even produce such cricketers, I mean, how would they make it out there? The playing field is not even. You have football, for example. Every minute you hear about some foreign person coming to be national coach and guiding his technical expert, coming to guide our technical team and our coaches and everything else. For so many years, we have heard about foreigners being our national football coaches. How come we have never had the idea or even contemplate bringing in a technical team to assist us in the cricketing area? 'Cause obviously, it is not working. We have some grassroots going on, but then after that, what? And the extent of the grassroots, you meet in the net and you do this and you do that. One or two persons might have a future ahead, but how do you nurture that talent to see that it goes on to continue on the trajectory to achieve the desired career of that young individual? There is nothing. What about the balance sheet? Do they publish the balance sheet? What is the financial state of the cricket association? Do they have fixed assets? Do they have money put down? Do they have shares anywhere? Are they generating any revenue? Because I don't talk about the success. Nothing at all going on with cricket. So I really don't know who would want to sponsor any cricket team around here. Sponsorship follows success. When you start to succeed, somebody will jump out, some business will jump out there and want to be a part of your success story because then they can get some mileage. But what mileage a prospective sponsor can get? What mileage can they get? What is the prospect of them getting return on their investment? Where would they get the mileage from? We're not doing much. We are simply not doing enough to lift up cricket. And sometimes what you have happening, persons who would have failed and failed miserably in some of these associations, when they are rejected by that community of stakeholders, they tend to hone their skills, if it's a skill, so to speak, or to gather their interest and put it elsewhere for another association. Well, if you're failing from a managerial perspective, you're managing people, you had challenges, you would have surrendered your effort. How can you now come out and convince others that you can do a good job? You're given ample opportunity. We're not reaching anywhere. We're not reaching anywhere at all. When last we sent a basketball player overseas, we had a report to show the person is advancing. I know that Sanjay Atherton Queeley's brother would have had a son who was out there, and he was doing pretty well because I had him on my show on Win FM several times. And my understanding is that the youngster was doing well, but I haven't heard anything about him for maybe 2 years now. So we seem to be able to make that start, but we're just not finishing. So we got to make up our minds whether our young people would play sports to be active and keep off the obesity, or they would do it just for fun, or whether you have a few who would want to do it to pursue career in some sporting activity. But then that is the area that is confusing because they must be accommodated. What is the accommodation like? We have St. Peter's football team, which I think is a decent football team. They have been in the top 4 for quite a while. But my understanding recently, as recent as yesterday, that they do not even have a sponsor. So if sponsorship is drying up, then should the onus be placed on the government to try to facilitate the proper structuring and performances of our sportsmen? I think I saw a sponsorship figure, $15,000 being sent out to private sectors. And if you're telling me that that is too much to facilitate a football club, then we really need to rethink potential sponsors. We really need to rethink that. And we have to factor it into, because this is the means of keeping the youngsters on the straight and narrow, allowing some of them to live their dreams, allowing some of them to appreciate the excitement that they create for crowds. And develop, because there's some discipline associated with it. You got to get up and train. You got to go out for the morning, do some things on your own. You have to go to the gym. You have to get ready for work or get ready for school. But overall, I think that we need systems that would better facilitate our sportsmen and women effort. We have to. And I just hope that that can be corrected. You see, but sometimes you have the same set of people trying to correct the errors that they themselves made and had no idea, had not a clue as to what they want to do. Sometimes we have some big talkers. Their thing is to out-talk the opposition or the opponent running for the same seat. And they must have realistic ideas. Sometimes the kind of thing that they're telling you that they would do, you have to wonder, how would they get there? How would that journey be facilitated? They need to come and be honest. What are the challenges? Yes, you want to move from point A to point B, and after point B, point C. But let us first deal with point A to B. Or let us even deal with point A. Because sometimes you just cannot even move. Sometimes point A might be a situation like quicksand. The more effort you put into moving, is the deeper you sink into problems. So you need to examine the very same point that you're trying to leave from. And you cannot develop a trajectory unless you understand the path that you're going to take, the challenges you're going to make or meet upon. And sometimes you have to take risks. You have to do risk management and see how much of it you can handle and still move forward. But if I have to assess the state of cricket in St. Kitts, it is dead. Dead, dead, dead. And the way forward is going to be difficult, because the way forward is just not putting programs together. You have to put realistic programs in place. It is very nice to be positive, but it is even better to be realistic. You must not sound good. It must be practically feasible. You must have workable programs. And then you must ask yourself, what pathway should we take to achieve that? What are the objectives? How can we achieve that? A big part of it is finance. People do not put their money behind failures. And that would have to change around. Much less to put your money on dead. Medicine is for the sick, not for the dead. So the financial medicine that they're hoping to achieve, you would have a Herculean task trying to convince people that they must make the sacrifices and inject some money into your effort. This is bigger than a lot of us. It takes a collective effort. You would have to call a special gathering of persons who you consider potential sponsors and pitch what you have, pitch your idea, answer questions. If they have grey areas that need to be placed into distinct shades of black and white, then you have to do that. You have to do that. And the sad thing about it, you have to first overcome the daunting history associated with cricket for the past 10 years, 15 years. We haven't done much. That line, that gradient in terms of advancement in cricket is a horizontal, a dead horizontal line. No gradient, no slope. Or you say gradient equals 0. So I don't know who are these orators who would be going to business places to convince them. Because sometimes cricket is playing in the park and we do not even know. Sometimes cricket is over at Conway and we do not even know. So if persons who might be willing to attend and patronize these games don't even know, how can we really uplift cricket? That line can stay horizontal for a long time. You cannot even get commentary on the government's own radio station. How can you re-energize, revitalize, recreate, remanufacture the interest in cricket? You're not bringing the games on the radio. And I'm saying that even where radio station can tell they need sponsorship, but as I said, it's heavily subsidized by government, taxpayers' money. So if you have to, even a few hours of a match, bring the match over the radio. You have persons who might not want to go to look at the match directly, but they would like to listen to the commentary. You had commentators like Wes Pereira and the other star one they had there. His name is eluding me right now. Tony Cozier and Wes Pereira. When you listen the commentary, it's like you're actually looking at the game. Looking at the game. How do we work on our commentators to put a little more life and bring the game into the homes of people without them having to go to the actual feel of play? How do we do that? You have some elderly who would like to listen to games. You have some retired people who might not want to go to the physical area. They might have some money that they would like to contribute, but they're not hearing anything. You have returning nationals, some out in Canada, some coming from England. So they have an idea what this cricket thing is all about. We need a special drive. But then when you do this special drive and people put money into your bank account, you must publish the accounts them. How do you account for money? How much you had? How much you spend? You need bank reconciliation statements. We had this and we use that and do this, and when you add up, everything add back up. You cannot go to people for sponsorship and don't show them your financial record, your history. You got to show people history. No bank account. Where the fixed assets, what condition are they in? How much they would have depreciated? Which method of depreciation you use to value your assets that you have? Do you use the reduced balance method of depreciation? Or the straight line method? What do you use? And you can't tell me that you have an association with fixed assets and you are not depreciating those fixed assets to truly reflect the current state of affairs with respect to those fixed assets. Unless all we have is a lazy, the association people either lazy or they're outright incompetent and clueless. Because even if you had somebody who really willing to invest, you have to carry a lot of things to those people. You would have made mistakes along the way. And you would have to indicate to these people that you'll try your best not to repeat those mistakes. Not to repeat those mistakes. I think that we reach a point where instead of having opposing members vying for the overall position in the association, we need to put that opposition thing aside. Have the best possible team selected from amongst persons who are available and willing, show willingness to put in the energy. I mean, the current president might not have done a great job, but you have to ask yourself what tool, what flexibility he had. What was his financial dexterity? What was his supporting staff like? So even though you might have a new president, that doesn't say that the current president must be discarded. There could be some place for him. And I would keep saying that we need to put the better heads together and come up with an association. Because those who are opposing might have some qualities and attributes that can go well with the attempt we're making to revive cricket. It must not be complete replacement. It must not be a complete replacement exercise. See how best we can utilize some who were there already, some who are currently there, and some who are making a pitch to be there. Pick the best possible combination. And then thereafter, they can be observed, placed under the microscope. You probe their managerial skills, look at the programs, see how well they would have satisfied their promises. And then you start to think about opposing. Maybe we don't even have a good 2 handful of persons really interested in those things. So maybe what they might need to do going forward is that a particular position could be contested for. Done. Another position could be contested for. Instead of having a slate of persons. Because yes, you might want this person as president, and automatically the slate would just fall in line. And that shouldn't be. We are not at that stage where that can be embraced totally. We need the best possible persons. Because somebody might lose the presidency and the vice presidency, but then the other persons who are vying for positions might well be able to serve better than the winning team. I think this is of national interest, and we should not allow it to fade and become circular with diminishing returns. The effort must be placed out there. And maybe those who are gathering and doing some thinking, so to speak, brainstorming. Maybe they themselves, yes, that is where the nucleus is. But what about if you go out on the periphery and allow input from other persons? It's still you at the nucleus. But on the periphery, you might pick up things that are substantially important for you as a contestant or contesting agent for the various positions available in the Cricket Association. Then what do we do? What about the groundsmen them? What do we do with them? Are we going to continue to treat them as though they are fourth-class citizens when they go to the park after they were putting all that labor in the pitches? Why they have to go down on that tree to sit down on the tree root to eat their lunch? Why can't they be accommodated like most in a special dining room? All that would go. We need everybody to be working in unison. And you cannot work the groundsmen for games that we facilitate on St. Kitts. And then when time to pay them, is a whole lot of nonsense you're telling the people. Sometimes monies are budgeted to pay them. It might be, let us say, $100 to pay a person. You want to give them $45, $55. What are you keeping the rest money to do? When you save this money, can it be seen on the account of the Cricket Association? Because even if you decide that you're going to reduce or keep down the cost at that particular juncture, so you can have more to pump into some other activity, cricketing activity, then we could understand. But you're not paying the people them, and you're not paying them on time when you do, and it becomes a whole rift. So you have a sort of antagonistic environment. Apart from the competition to run the association, they're not in unison with the groundsmen. And they must prepare the wickets. Our practicing pitches and the nets must be in good order. And I think that it is time we purchase 2 or 3 bowling machines. You can put one in Sandy Point, one in Care Mall in your area, one in Bastille. It's not everybody can leave home and reach to Bastille to utilize the bowling machine. Sometimes you don't have anybody to bowl to you, and that machine can go a long, long way. Now, when you get those machines, you have to take care of them. You have to take care of them. The mattings that you put down, the artificial turfs that you put down, they must be tight enough to allow the ball to move at a reasonable speed after pitching on the mattings. Because you don't want to put the natural turf there, because that will be another problem in terms of getting it prepared. Who would be responsible for that? Because playing off the matting and playing off the natural earth could have a great differential. Now, our wickets that we play on, do we carry out soil profile analysis and see how we can improve the wickets? Or we are going to have our young, tall, strong men going to play basketball? When Australia took advantage of the West Indies, the authorities decided that we're going back to Australia, but they need to look at least 4 strong, quick bowlers. And that was like a project. And they did just that. And we washed out Australia. They humiliated us the series before, we went back and we dealt with them. Now I'm saying, that we have not seen pace bowling of that magnitude for quite a while. Yes, you had Marshall, Ambrose, Walsh, and those guys coming. But who do we have now? We have guys pushing forward to our pace bowlers. Everybody's an expert hooker when it comes to our West Indies fast bowlers. Because we have not gone on any drive to get some big, young, strong men with height. Garner height, Ambrose height, Walsh height. And if you don't have the height, you have the shoulders and the muscularity to pitch that ball down there like Patterson. Marshall was short, but he was filled with venom. We must have pace bowlers. Pace bowlers can only be encouraged by the wickets that we have around here. A lot of them need to be restructured, resurfaced, and they need to be cared for. A wicket would not continue to be of the quality it ought to be unless you care for it, unless you do the occasional soil analysis and see what component needs to be improved upon to give you that little bounce to encourage spinners and pace bowlers. Unless we're going to end up in a problematic area. We have to. You think it is fun for us? Yes, you have owners for the Patriots. You think it's Navy's Patriots. There's nothing wrong with that. Billionaire people own those teams. And sometimes we as kidney visions don't feel comfortable that we are hosting games here for CPL and we could hardly get either Nivision or Kittishan to have some permanent presence on the Patriots team. The owners then would tell you that they want people who would help them to win. There's money that they're playing for. And if you're hosting this thing for so long, but yet we cannot have a tournament that would encourage the young men them to play that type of cricket, become an all-arounder, be able to shut down some stiff medium pace, or maybe spin the ball exceptionally well, like a Narayan, and, hit the ball out the park. You have to practice for that. What type of cricket are we playing to even produce a player that can have some permanence on the CPL Patriot team? And some people don't understand it, Some people feel like we are saying it's team and not Kittishan on it. Or we are saying it's Navy's team and need a Kittishan and a vision on it. But they don't understand the team belongs to billionaires outside there, billionaires and multimillionaires. They decide who they want and their team. But I believe if you're going to carry around St. Kitts Nevis as the face of this Patriot team, we have to try our best to get a Kittishan and a Nivision. Either you have them on the team simultaneously, or you put on one, you take off the other one, and you alternate it. But I'm saying, even if we are thriving for that, even if we are striving for that, the person must be worthy of being picked or selected. Money inside of CPL. Money in 2020. So it's not just not the CPL games here. It's not like a test match you have to go down there for 5 days. You can travel. They have 2020 in various countries. Right now, the IPL, the Indian Premier League, I mean, it would be going for about 65 days. And we have players down there. I think you have Narain, you have Seth Meyer, you have the guy there who made the quickest 50, the guy who used to be the captain there from, I think it's Trinidad. And Pomad. And even though, yeah, we have Benjamin down there, we have Yadanko Narain, the batsman, them. One of them made the quickest 50 off of 15 balls. I mean, they're making money. Oh, yeah, and Myers down there as well. But then, they will have the rules that you only could have a certain number of foreign players and whatever else. You got to be extremely good. You got to be in good form, doing what you have to do on a consistent basis. And you have Andrew Russell. He has not been performing so well with the bat, but he's feeling as usual and taking up a few wickets. But the great thing about it is that even though we might not have active players who are directly involved in the play on the field, you have some persons who have been given contracts to work along with various teams. I think DJ Bravo is down there working along with a team. I think it's a team with the popular Indian wicketkeeper, Dhoni. You have, I saw Brian Lara down there doing some work. So even though some persons might have retired from this sport, the authorities would have such admiration for these people and give them a chance to generate some revenue still. Because when you retire, you might have investment in different places. But some of them would still get a chance to make a penny here, a penny there. And again, somebody like Lara, with such batting skills, broke the world record twice, had the highest score, 501. He has a good amount of skills that he can share with the younger folks. And of course, Bravo was a champion at the T20. You have persons from Australia who have retired. I think I saw Ricky Ponting. Persons who have retired generating some revenue. So we now have to take it local and see if we can even produce somebody of substance and could gain selection, not only to the Patriots team, but perform in such a way that they can get the eyes of persons who come here to scout for players. We'll have to do that. I think our Patriot team is owned by an Indian. Well, if he can see something in Patriot members and make recommendations back in India, that is how things would be done. If you look at a game on the TV, if you look at a game, you can see the crowd. You could understand where they generate a lot of money. Why can't we prepare people to be considered for this opportunity to make money. Got test cricket, you could hardly find the youngsters around here who want to play a two-day match. No tournament there. They're not so keen on playing any two-day match, much less a three-day match. And the funny thing about it, throughout the years, we would have organized two-day matches, three-day matches. But then when we go to play test cricket, the test cricket is 5 days. The test cricket is a 5-day cricket match. So you're down here playing a 3-day cricket match and trying to get an outcome in 3 days. And that means that they got to bat twice. You got to field twice, but you got to bat twice. At least one team would have to bat twice. How can you use 3-day cricket to prepare for a 5-day cricket? Your mindset is that you're trying to bat in a way to accelerate the scoring to see if you can win the game outright in 3 days. No wonder when our cricketers go to play test cricket, we lose matches in 3 days or 4 days, 3.5 days. Because the environment is not conducive to prepare you for a 5-day game. Yes, sponsorship and everything, but I believe that some 4-day games can be played. Because you're asking persons to occupy the crease. Occupy the crease. But how can they occupy the crease and still bat at a rate to allow at least one team to bat twice or to get an outright victory? It is idiosyncratic. Some private sectors in the West Indies, some business can come up and say, look, you're having this 4-day game. I would like to give a special reward to the person who bats the longest. Or you might want to qualify that. The person who bats the longest and make a reasonable score. So if you had somebody batting for 2 hours and that person made 45, and you had somebody else batting for an hour and 3/4 but made 57, you might want to deal with the person who made the 57, even though he did not bat as long as. Or you could just make it outright, just occupy the crease. I saw Shanda Paul's son occupying the crease. I think he made a double century. And that is the type of batting we want. But what has he done since that? Consistency killing West Indies cricket. And as much as they are trying their best to play as many matches as possible, the local cricket is far from a stepping stone. Local cricket is quicksand, not getting off the mark. And there's the urgent need. The urgency of now must be placed into having a retreat to see what can we do to salvage our cricket. Let us take a break. Come on.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join Newrish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join Newrish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as Newrish Nital tackles the issues and take your calls. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
children's future dwindling, creating much disillusion. Or would we watch on idly, disregarding our self-sufficiency?
Welcome back to Fear Nor Favor. Now 420. There is quite a stir about 420 and our music festival being 420 friendly, and it would have generated quite a bit of debate, and of course the advocates of freeing up the herb, some of them have some very good suggestions, some good ideas. And you have the opponents with some good suggestions as well. How are we going to really deal with this 420? Are we going to adjust our laws specifically for the occasion, and then we go back to what they were prior to those laws, conditional laws? What are we really going to be doing? Are people allowed to sell marijuana at the facility where the music festival is being hosted? Are you allowed to smoke it? Is it a private function? I know that the government has a big input. And I don't know if, even if you have a private function for which the general public is permitted to come by way of contribution or charge, if you could still consider that private. I think that they need to elucidate that concept of public and clear it up for a lot of persons. Now, if you're going to put an area where persons are free to smoke the marijuana, then we have to be mindful that gaseous particles or molecules, you cannot get them stay one place. I know sometimes people create what they call a hot room, where they light off and they close up all the windows and they do most and many things. And then when you come out, you're high like a kite. The smoke will escape. I don't know if they intend to create hot rooms. I don't know how that particular area would be constructed, because we know the direction of the wind, and you're talking about Warner Park, the direction of the wind would change and can change and might change. So what do you do in the event that you change the permitted smoking area quickly to another area? I mean, what it is, you have some persons do not smoke. They don't wish for the alveoli in their lungs to be clogged with smoke particles. That is one reason. Another reason, as much as some people do enjoy the sensitivity they experience from the smoking of the marijuana, some people just don't like smell it. To you who use it, you have to tolerate the scent, whether you like to smell it or not. You wouldn't talk negatively of its scent. But to some people, it smells rather stink. That's a fact. Some people cannot stomach the stench. Some of you might not feel comfortable that I use the word stench. But to them, it is a stench. To you, it might be an aroma. Some people cannot stomach it at all. So how are we going to create this equilibrium? How? Is there going to be liability? Because if you create an area for these people to smoke and you have asthmatic persons attending the carnival who got a right to enjoy themselves like anybody else, and that person falls sick, who is directly liable? Who is vicariously liable? Who can be included in a civil lawsuit? Who could be the respondents in a civil lawsuit? We have to understand, some people take in asthma to be just a condition. You have had persons died of asthma, get an asthma attack and died. So you're telling me that asthmatic persons cannot enjoy a music festival? It's either that we're going to have a music festival for persons to enjoy the music and the lyrical content of the music and the performance of the artists, or we're going to have a smoke festival. Two of them can coexist. You either got your smoke festival, where people's eyes become clouded with the high concentration of smoking, or you're going to have a music festival. Maybe what you can, I can't even say that, maybe you could tell people show up this night, those are smokers night, non-smokers night. It's going to be difficult because the night you might have chosen for the non-smokers might not be that night when the person who they want to hear would be on stage. How are we going to deal with this? Sometimes we're behaving as though we do not have the laws of nuisance on our books. The law clearly says that if you create a nuisance, you have to contain it. So the nuisance is the smoke, clouding people's eyes, burning their eyes, causing them to cough, affecting the respiratory tract. You must not own. It's not only asthmatic persons. You have persons who have allergies. We have persons who have allergies. So we have to cater for our people. So you create a nuisance, which is smoke, and the distress you put somebody under, and nobody wants to take that into consideration. Somebody might say, well, why it's just 3 days, it's just a night, it's just 2 nights, it's just 4 days. Many persons would have passed out as a result of conditions at a function in one night. You can't tell somebody how much a body could tolerate. Sometimes you yourself don't even know. How much people end up in people's house and don't even know how they got there after these festivities. And that is not the only thing we have to contend with. You have people using drugs to drug people, to do whatever they want to do with them. So it's just not a marijuana issue. And those who do not want marijuana to be categorized as any level of drug, that is okay. But you have drug that persons are using to take advantage of other persons. What are we going to do? And I think if we are going to take that step to create an area, I don't know if you're going to put up some extractor fans. But even extractor fans, they'll put them some extractor fan and move them from one place to the next. How are we going to deal with the nuisance, having given permission for persons to create the nuisance? Because technically, if you give somebody a license to do something, could you thereafter call it a nuisance? You have gotten permission. But I think the extent of the qualifying something as a nuisance is a kind of subjective thing. You have people live and the neighbors getting involved in smoking. And you cannot get any ease. Many times persons would have to go by a family member elsewhere to escape the onslaught or the nuisance. It is so interesting that there are so many different ways that the marijuana can be used. Why not brew some tea? Brew something. Let people drink something. Keep the smoke out the air. But say one, say two. You have persons going to those same activities. And they are selling the edibles, whether through the gummy, the popcorn, the sugar cake. They are selling them. Some people are aware of what they are eating. Some people are not aware of what they are eating. How many persons might be returning national or visiting and they would like to taste a sugar cake, a culture cake, they call it. But then if you're now putting the ingredients in such a way that is more than the sugar and the coconut, that can be rather offensive. If you're selling them and you're permitted by law, and that is another question. That is a next question. If supplying marijuana to anybody else, trafficking, when you put them in the edibles or whatever else you put them in, technically that is trafficking. Supplying, trafficking. And the danger about that is this. When you smoke marijuana, it takes a very short time for it to get to your brain and to give you the sensation that you're craving. Very short time. When you eat when you eat marijuana, it goes down into your digestive system. And it takes quite a while to get into the bloodstream and reach areas where they're supposed to impact in your brain area. So, with that suspended period of time, you might not feel the effect of one edible. You eat another edible. Because naturally, you are aware of what's in the edible. So you eat a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, and eighth. And then, when the accumulative effect would have stepped in on you, sometimes you don't have a clue what is happening. You fall along behind some place, your friends, they miss you, they come look for you, they see you there, and they go and pass out. pass out. Because it goes through your digestive system. It's not through your respiratory tract, so you could get a more instant idea of the effect the concentration of what you would have inhaled would have on you. This is through your digestive tract. It'd have to be digested. And we don't even know the dosage. We don't know the potency of those edibles. I had somebody who usually smoked marijuana on a very frequent basis told me that he tried edibles and they nearly take his life when he reached home. And this is somebody who believed that he could smoke 10, 15, 20 joints a day. But the edibles, that was a whole different story. So you got to ask yourself, if this person could manage 10 spliffs a day, 5 spliffs per day, but a set of edibles almost send him up the psychiatric ward. You have to ask yourself, what is the potency of these edibles? And to me, government should not relax their effort in trying to investigate those edibles. It is unfair, and some of them are sold around our schools. Some of them are sold around our schools. And that is why once you have a playing area, community center, a playground, a basketball court, sometimes you go there after lunchtime and you see children hanging around there still. Maybe they don't even have a clue where they are. Because at most of our high school, that is where some people try to trade in selling those stuff. It's rather unfortunate. We're passing laws with respect to smoking. What about having a sting operation where you send people to buy the gummies and the sugar cake and do whatever and they take them to the multipurpose lab for quantitative and qualitative chemistry work on them? Unless we're just showing up our arms. We're just showing up our arms. Before recently, they were saying that the brain is not truly developed until you're 25. So therefore, one must be mindful of the mind-altering substances that people consume at an age below 25. If we are seriously concerned about our youngsters who are on an increased with respect to marijuana-induced psychosis, if we are seriously concerned about that, we got to step out, protect persons against themselves, protect families from losing a loved one. You don't have to go 6 feet for a family to lose you. If your mental state is such that you're no use to yourself, what use you can be to a family? And I think that is on the increase. We got to be careful with that. Some people might say, but I better they legalize the marijuana or free up the herb. And you regulate it. Just like when somebody goes to the pharmacy, you get either 200 milligrams, 500 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams. You take 1-3 times per day. You know, those are the sort of stuff. Do we really understand the potency of the marijuana that we're dealing with? If you don't understand it, because I like trial and error, but let me eat some and see what happens. Like my partner tell me, but he ain't had a clue what happened to him from eating edibles. So would it be safe for you to maybe legalize the whole thing, have it properly regulated, give license to some people to deal in it. So then you would not have everybody dealing in whatever. And the funny thing about it is that ganja is becoming more and more prevalent. And with scarcity, the price was better. So if I used to sell 10 ounces of weed and made, I really don't know how it goes, but let us just use a hypothetical figure, $100. With more persons coming on stream, taking out, they cut out the cake, out the marijuana cake, marijuana pie, vegetarian pie. Other persons coming on stream. That means with the increase in supply, my price would have to go down. So if originally I made $100 from 10 ounces, the competition would have increased, carry up the supply. The demand is basically the same, but the supply increase. The price can drop. That is economics. So what a person would do, let us go back to the hypothetical situation of 10 ounces for $100. I would now start to sell 1 ounce mixed with other vegetable ingredients. Make it up. Sell another ounce with other vegetable matters and keep making it up. So by the time I finish selling my 10 ounces, I would have made the same $100 that I ought not to have made because of the increase in supply. So people would be mixing the weed quantity to do what they have to do. Nobody gonna give you no genuine weed and pure weed alone for a considerably decreased price. They're gonna mix it. And that is not all to it. When you find your market and you have your clients who patronize in your business, as the supply in the market increases, you would have to do what you have to do to maintain a reasonable share of the market before the supply was increased. You might have to add something. This time might not be mere vegetable matter. You might have to add something to a set of your customers and get them addicted to what you have to offer. So people are going to be doing a lot of stuff to hold on to the clientele. A lot of stuff. So I'm requesting that we have a closer look at our people, young people, utilizing the marijuana and head can't take it, and experiencing marijuana or cannabis-induced psychosis, putting that strain on our medical bills. We have to be careful. Plus, we don't even have a rehabilitation facility. This was a real incident that happened. Somebody was experiencing marijuana-induced psychosis. They went the police took them to the psychiatric ward. And I think it was a Sunday, because whatever the person was doing to people's property, they indicated to the police that they had no room. But if you don't have any room at the place where that person sought to be appropriately, where else would have room to accommodate that person? Even if the police took back the person to the police station, is there a psychiatrist down there? Is there a psychologist to offer him therapy to make sure that he holds out until the Monday when they say bring him back? Or are you going to leave him at the station where he would misbehave and get ill-treated by the police who are not trained to look after him? How could you turn back somebody who need a psychiatric help and say you do not have any room? Well, that is a message. Our psychiatric facility is not big enough. Somebody might have said, well, it must have room in there for one more. But sometimes the staffing is such that it could be risky having certain persons behaving in a certain way. Because even though you might try to give them some medication to get them behave and calm down, sometimes it's getting them to take the injection in the first place. Sometimes you might not be able to find the orderly who's supposed to be assisting you. So we really need a rehabilitation center. And we need increased numbers in the psychiatrists. We need increased numbers in the psychologists. We need therapists to increase around here. And we need education. Sometimes you need group therapy. Sometimes you need family therapy. Research would have shown that family therapy works pretty well. But how many persons disown a family member once they start to show that trend in behavior? So family therapy is so difficult to have around here. Sometimes you release somebody from the psychiatric ward and you give them medication. You only need a family member to assist in facilitating the taking of the medication on time. And you cannot even have that. Most of the time when these persons go through their hard times and they relapse, it's due to family negligence. They're not taking them on. They don't wish to be associated with them. And the funny thing about it, they tend to interfere and try to injure people other than their own family members. That sounds a bit surgical to me. We need people to come on board to help us look after. The government has a responsibility that you don't put too many of these persons out there. And the advocates for smoking the weed would have all kind of things to say. And they're screaming. They are basically claiming that because they're adding stuff to the weed. But everybody's unique in their own way. You can get intoxicated from drinking water, pure water. So don't say if somebody experiences marijuana-induced psychosis is because it was contaminated with something. All of us take things differently. You could pull a spliff and do whatever you have to do. Somebody else might pull a spliff and be messed up for the rest of the day. So this idea about saying because they mixed it with something is not always true. It is not always true. People would have become psychotic from using pure marijuana. I know the funny thing about it. We seem to be legislating for medicinal marijuana. But 90% of the usage, or 95 or 99% of the usage, is for recreational purposes. So people just get up and try the medicine in the ear, smoke it, use it up in the ear, do whatever they had to do. So who said that I want to inhale any of your medication? Because if you're saying that we legislating for medicinal marijuana, why the rush in recreational use? And the other question we have to ask, under what category does marijuana, under which category Rastas are those guys who spiritual worship and doing whatever they have to do? What category that falls under? Medicinal or recreational? Don't care what the court would have said. You have two uses, medicinal and recreational. What is the disease or the ailment you're trying to cure when you go through your spiritual rituals? Unless everybody would eventually come up with a religion that would utilize marijuana as part of their worshiping practices, what would you say to them? By your bald head, that ain't go for you. How can you be so judgmental? You could have a set of people, 50, 150 of them, all of them with bald head to the skull. But as part of the worshiping, they use marijuana. Who is going to tell them that that is not true? You don't have to be dreadlocks to be Rasta. The song told you that. So you could have a set of bald head Rastas. You could have other religions evolving as time goes by, and part of the worship practices would be the use of marijuana. Do they have to go somewhere to be evaluated to say whether or not that religion would be accepted? How would we deal with it? And how could you tell a youngster, 5, 8, 10, 12, 15, 16, you tell the suppliers them you're not supposed to sell weed or cause the youngsters them to use weed, marijuana. You tell them that. But yet, if that child is part of a Rastafari home environment, they can use it when they're having the spiritual worships. What that's supposed to mean? This 16-year-old make out of metal and the other make out of flesh, blood and bone. How can you legally say that 16-year-olds are not supposed to smoke marijuana? But as long as you categorize yourself as a member of Rastafari religion, then you can do it. But what is the difference between the two 16-year-olds? And this thing is deeper than we could ever imagine. And persons could have personal relationship with the Lord, such as how some of these churches, organizations operating. It might be better for you to develop your personal relationship and stick there. A man going to tell you starve yourself to death and you'll go to heaven. And you start digging up bodies, 100 bodies, skeleton of persons who would have starved themselves to death. People listening to the news. The internet would have brought everybody into the proximity of being neighbors. So when things happen out there, people might become paranoid about going to certain churches or going to churches in general. And they might want to develop their own personal relationship and don't go worship with anybody. Now, if part of their decision is to smoke up and consume the marijuana, who would tell them that they're not permitted to do that? Worship would have to be as a group. You get on your knees and you worship the Lord, whether first thing in the morning, last thing in the night, throughout the day, whichever when you choose to carry out at whatever time of the day. So if I want to smoke up my weed while I'm in my personal communication with the Lord, and whether I smoke a big blunt, whatever I smoke, and you rush come in my place and see what's going on. Or you could worship your Lord in motion. You don't have to be in a fixed area to worship. You could worship while you walk. And if I choose to worship while I walk and smoke up my weed when I'm moving from Warner Park to this park, Newtown to Irish Town, wherever I walk in, and I do my own worship, pulling my spliff and chanting some psalms, chanting whatever section of the Bible. What's the problem there? I'm smoking in public. You gave me permission to smoke based on my religion. So why can't I walk and smoke? Anyhow, we have come to the end of our program for tonight, and we are hopeful that the good General Surgeon would be with us next week. I think the topic might be circumcision. And on that note, some persons say, well, circumcision was mentioned in the Bible. But maybe if you look closer, it might be circumcision of the heart, and be more appreciative and trust in God. Good night.
The opinions and statements made by the host and participants in this program are not those of the owners,